From circuits being cancelled, players being banned, and other divisions within the community, a remaining beacon of hope has always been Beyond the Summit in their Smash Summit series. From their first iteration with Melee in 2015, they've been supporting Ultimate since its release, hosting their now 6th event of this kind, and their tournaments remain some of the most prestigious and legendary in the game's history. Unfortunately, in late February of 2023, we got an announcement from Beyond the Summit's owner that they would be closing their doors and Ultimate Summit 6 would be their last event. So even though Summit was already going to be a legendary event with an amazing 16-player lineup, what we are about to witness was even crazier than we could have expected. Only one person can reach the Summit. Before the weekend even started, we had an announcement from Light that he unfortunately wasn't going to be able to make it to Summit due to a COVID diagnosis. With a spot missing, BTS needed to find another player and decided to have the runner-ups from the 2 previous qualifiers, Louis Money and Skyjay, who already happened to be there attending as VIPs, play a best of 5 set. Louis Money was very confident before the set, claiming he had no fear and was going to take the set home. But with his recent performance at Collision and all the experience he had against Chag, Skyjay was going to show Louis Money that he had one fear. Louis Money took game 1 off a miss input from Skyjay, but that would be the last one he got. Skyjay instilled the fear into Louis Money and dominated him the next 3 games, claiming the final Summit spot. Now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to dive into all 16 competitors and their runs at the event. Starting with 13th. Man, who would have guessed? All the voteds get 13th. Bunch of content creators. Man, these guys suck. Wait, what? Joining Glutonny as Europe's other representative at Summit, one of the strongest Pichus in the world, NaetorU, didn't perform as well as they wanted at this event, but the experience was invaluable. He was in Pool B, which consisted of ult rank number 3 Spargo, number 9 Riddles, and number 39 MuteAce. He got some highlights throughout the event and entered the gauntlet as the bottom seed. He faced off against the fiery hot Skyjay and got 3-0'd out of the gauntlet. In the final bracket, he had to face off against MKLeo, who showed off his Meta Knight to the world on the biggest stage, and lost the set 3-0. I saw him getting a lot of disrespect on Twitter for his losses, but honestly, he got some great wins and put on a great performance, and I'm excited to see more from him in the future. Moist's very own Aaron is one of Ultimate's most underappreciated competitors and had some great sets. Pool D was the toughest of the event, especially looking at the results, with ult rank number 19 Big D, number 8 Tweek, and number 10 ProtoBanham. The Diddy Ditto was too much for Aaron, losing to Tweek 3-0, but he was able to get a game off of Banham and one off of Big D with his Cloud. In the gauntlet phase, he had the unfortunate luck of running into the first seed, MKLeo, and got 3-0'd by a combination of his Joker and Meta Knight. In the final bracket, he was matched with Glutonny, who he's played before in bracket 2 previous times, but had yet to even take a game from. This time was different for Aaron though. He fought hard and they had a game 5 set, where Aaron had to kill off a banana throw on the last stock and went for a grab rather than a smash attack, which ended up sealing his fate and his tournament at 13th place. The last seed of the event and one of the most controversial Summit vote-ins in the history of the event, Hungrybox, surprised everybody. I think people forget that he's a top player in another Smash game and a master in the Summit environment, having won 3 Melee Summits. The sole Puff rep was in Pool A with ult rank number 1 MKLeo, number 15 Glutonny, and number 20 ApolloKage. Leo swept Hungrybox, but he had a lot more competitive sets with the other 2 competitors. Glutonny has struggled against Puff in the past, and Hungrybox showed his weaknesses in the matchup, taking a game from him. He even took ApolloKage to game 5, but AK started trying for real game 5 and kinda destroyed him. After falling in the gauntlet phase, he lost to Spargo, who bullied him in all 3 of their games. What a bad matchup for Puff. In the final bracket, Hungrybox matched against Skyjay's Incineroar and got 3-0'd in a competitive set. For a content creator and Melee player, Hungrybox did pretty damn good. Previous Summit 4 champion and 2nd seed of the event, Spargo crashed out far below where he was expected to place. 13th is Spargo's lowest placement since, Genesis 7, all the way back in 2020, where he got 49th, long before he was a top player. He only ended up going 1-2 in Pool B, losing to MuteAce, who he funnily enough lost to back at Genesis 7 as well, and Riddles, who's been on a hot streak recently, so he had to hit the gauntlet phase. After beating Hungrybox, he faced off with Kurama, who he's gone back and forth with in the past, and this set was no different. They traded game after game, but Kurama eventually came out on top, showing his mastery of the matchup. In the final bracket, Spargo had to face off against one of the players he probably wanted to fight the least, Void. Spargo actually made a name for himself back in 2019 when he won a huge SoCal weekly over Void, who was a top 15 player at the time. These are different times though, and unlike Pichu, Sheik is notoriously one of Cloud's worst matchups, it was an absolute intense game 5 between the two. And while it did look like Spargo took the momentum back in his favor, but Void found the win, making Spargo our final 13th place finisher. In 9th, we had an interesting mix of players. The other of the two top 2 seeds, MKLeo, ended up in 9th. March has just not been MKLeo's month, making it his second back-to-back 9th place at a major, but this is also his second time he's gotten 9th at Summit in a row. He had a rough time in Pool A, losing to Glutonny in a close game 5, but was destroyed 3-0 by ApolloKage's Snake, who was on one of the most stellar runs of the event. Having to run it through the gauntlet, he 3-0'd Aaron in round 1, showing off his newest character that he alluded to not too long ago on Twitter, Meta Knight, in game 3. After that win, Leo had to fight Riddles, who he was 3-0'd by at Collision earlier in the month, and this set wasn't any better, losing 3-0 to the Kazuya again. In the final phase of the bracket, he faced off against NaetorU in round 1 and 3-0'd the top Pichu with his Meta Knight. Leo had very unfortunate bracket luck, having to fight acola for 9th. Prior to this event, Leo had never dropped a game to acola, beating him 6-0 at the Ledwig Smash Invitational, but acola made him look like a bot, 3-0ing the Byleth with ease. Leo's only set wins at this event were over the invited players. Speaking of Riddles, the Collision 2023 champion fell at 9th place. After a strong group phase, only dropping 1 set to MuteAce, he beat Leo in the gauntlet, then proceeded to the final bracket through winner side. His first opponent in the main bracket was probably his worst matchup at the event, Banham, who gave Riddles Kazuya the work. After losing games 1 and 2, Riddles switched over to Terry and had much better results, taking a game over his Min. Banham counterpicked to Lucina the next game, and Riddles Terry unfortunately wasn't enough. In losers, Riddles had to run it back against his Collision 2023 Grand Finals matchup, Skyjay. In a matchup of characters with mobility and range limitations, the matches between these two are always scrappy as hell. Riddles fought hard in the set, taking game 1, and had other close games in the set, but it ended up in Skyjay's favor, taking the set 3-1. The only nominated player to not place 13th, Void, had a very rough event. Group C was especially rough for him, with 3 players who are all very experienced against Sheik or play a rough matchup for her. He took the first game against all 3 of his opponents, but couldn't close out any of the sets, with the only game 5 being against Kurama, which was a reverse 3-0. In the gauntlet, he played Big D, which is another rough matchup for Sheik, and Big D is also the most experienced Ices in the matchup by far, and lost the set 3-0. Things were looking bleak for Void, but you can tell that he was looking more and more comfortable every day. After a tweet by yours truly, I put the energy out in the universe for Void to come in and get this set for Spargo. It was very intense. Void went at 2-0 on Spargo, and the kid got mad. He fought back and got the next 2, bringing it to a game 5 situation. Void in game 5 though was on another level, with his conversions looking airtight and overwhelming. He almost threw the set trying to hit a sick ass combo, but closed it out with a raindrop. ApolloKage was Void's next opponent, and AK was ready for the sheet. Void got game 1, but AK adapted and started playing around Snake's strong suits, surviving and getting trades. With these two, he was able to close out the set against Void. Our final 9th place finisher was MuteAce, who started out the event looking like he could take the whole thing home. With Solo Peach, Mute went undefeated in Pool B, beating Spargo, Riddles, and NaetorU, and got to skip the gauntlet phase altogether. In the main bracket is where Mute's problems began. At Genesis 9, the tournament Mute qualified from, he built the reputation of making himself unstoppable in last hit situations, throwing out a wall of aerials, making him very hard to hit. At Summit though, Mute couldn't keep up this reputation, losing 2 game 5 sets. First set was against Kurama, being the two's first encounter in bracket. They traded games, and in a last stock situation, Mute evened up the game with a big turnip combo on Kurama. Kurama though was able to clutch it out with an up smash. In losers, Mute matched up against Glutonny, who he had defeated at Genesis 9, but Gluto made the adjustments he needed and took the set with an offstage waft game 5. Now for our top 8 finisher. The first 7th place finisher is Europe's best, Glutonny. The Wario came out of Pool A as the 2nd seed, being able to defeat Hungrybox and Leo, and almost had ApolloKage, but AK got the reverse 3-0 on the Wario. These game 5 sets and pools would be an indicator of what the rest of Gluto's weekend was going to look like. Going into the gauntlet phase, he faced off against one of the hottest players of the weekend, Big D, who was able to take their set game 5. Getting into the main bracket, Gluto was able to keep his composure and close out a clutch game 5 set versus both Aaron's Diddy and MuteAce's Peach. Gluto really showed off his optimizations with Wario's punish game and how far he had been taken, specifically his waft punishes. You could tell that after those 2 sets, Glutonny was mentally exhausted, and in his top 8 match against acola, Gluto couldn't bring it together and got ran over by the Steve. The final member of Group A, ApolloKage, took the final spot in top 8. AK came into the weekend as the biggest story. He's been on the rise recently, and everybody has recognized he's been getting really good, but he took an even bigger leap at this event. He started off the group phase by dominating MKLeo and reverse 3-0 Glutonny, which set the tone for the whole weekend. As the undefeated player in his pool, AK got floated through the gauntlet phase and came into the main bracket as the number 1 seed. His first match of the final bracket was against Tweek and his Sephiroth. Tweek has been known to struggle against Snake, but went up 2-0 against ApolloKage. But AK had already done reverse 3-0s this weekend. He slowed down the match and was able to take the next 2 games. But in the game 5, Tweek came through and took the set. On the loser side, AK picked up a win over Void 3-1 to make top 8, but that would be the last set that he got. Skyjay was ApolloKage's next opponent, and the Incineroar was just too oppressive for him, consistently being able to find the kills and using ApolloKage's defense against him to seal stocks. Speaking of Skyjay, he was one of our 5th place finishers. After fighting for his spot and taking Light Seed, Skyjay was somehow able to still perform to the 6th seed he was given. Skyjay has been putting his character on the map for over a year now and has gained the community's attention since Collision. He was in Pool C, which was definitely rough for Incineroar. He beat Void Sheik, which he's very practiced in, having played Rocks and Mr. R many times, then got swiftly 3-0'd by both Kurama and Acola. Both of them overwhelmed Skyjay to the point where his early kills weren't even relevant. In the Gauntlet phase, he beat NaetorU 3-0, then lost a back and forth Game 5 to Tweek's Diddy Kong. Entering the final bracket through losers would have been a recipe for disaster for most of the players. But with a character that thrives off of making everybody else scared, Skyjay almost wanted to be here. He got a quick 3-0 over Hungrybox to match off against the other Liquid player at this event, Riddles. Back at Collision, Riddles is the one that ended Skyjay's Cinderella run, double eliminating the Incineroar. At that event, all the games were close, and with even more preparation, Skyjay came for blood this set, taking it 3-1 over Riddles. His next opponent was ApolloKage in their first matchup ever. AK loves to run around in camp a bit, throwing out his grenades to get trades and trying to live forever. Skyjay didn't care about any of this. He was all over ApolloKage, revenging the grenades, then killing him stupid early off those revenges. He ended up taking the set 3-1 over ApolloKage. His final set was a rematch from pools against Kurama, and this set didn't go any better than the last one. It just seems like a terrible matchup for Incineroar. Kurama 3-0'd Skyjay, eliminating him at 5th place. The defending Summit champion and one of Japan's best players, ProtoBanham, was our other 5th place finisher. After stepping away from the game for a few months, Banham started to compete again in early March in preparation for Summit and was looking as strong as ever. Coming out of Pool D, he won his pool convincingly, beating Big D, Tweek, and Aaron with his dynamic duo of Lucina and Min Min. The Big D set was especially bad. You know, Icy's Min Min stuff? Yeah. And was by far Big D's most destructive L of the weekend. Going 3-0 in the group phase means that Banham got floated through the gauntlet and faced off against his first opponent in the final bracket, Riddles. Banham's lineup is especially good against Kazuya and bodied Riddles both games 1 and 2. Riddles switched to Terry game 3 and beat the Min Min back, forcing Banham to make the switch to Lucina, which is exactly what he needed. He exposed Terry's weak off-stage game, consistently killing him every time he was off the stage. In winter semifinals, he matched off against Tweek, who had told commentary earlier in the bracket that Banham was the only player he really wanted to play. Banham showed an expertise with Banana that we haven't seen from many other players and went up 2-1 against Tweek, but wasn't able to close out the set, eventually losing a game 5. In losers, he was just another poor soul that had to be part of Akola's legendary losers run. Banham won the first game with Min Min, then lost the next 2 with her, then switched to Lucina and got it to game 5. Akola came through and adapted and took the final game though, sending the defending champ out at 5th place. Holding down the West Coast time and time again, Kurama was able to secure 4th place. Ever since the Ludwig Smash Invitational, Kurama has been on a completely different level. He's only been losing to the best of the best in the game, and those were the only players to take sets from him this weekend as well. He came out of Group C as the 2nd seed. He lost 3-1 to Akola's Steve, but had a dominant 3-0 against Skyjay and got a reverse 3-0 against Void Sheik after getting 3-stock game 2. In the gauntlet stage, he had to go up against Spargo, a player that a lot of people see as the current number 1 in the world. The two were 1-1 prior to this set and looked very even throughout their games, with Kurama eventually coming out on top with a win game 5. His first round of bracket was against MuteAce, in one of the best sets of the event in my opinion. The two fought hard throughout the set, both having huge highlights with clutch combos and crazy scramble moments. sets. Kurama was able to conquer the king of the last hit situation in a game 5 and took the set home. His next opponent was Big D. He was able to get a game over Big D this time, but the Team Fundy's Icy was too much for the Mario, sending Kurama to loser's bracket. He got to face off against Skyjay again and 3-0'd the Incineroar before his match against Acola. Again, this set went about the same as their pool set. Acola started off looking very dominant, but by the end of game 2, it looked like Kurama had started to understand the Steve and put himself on the board game 3. In game 4, Kurama had a sizable lead, but on his last stock, Acola went to another level and made himself unhittable, evening up the game. Acola eventually found a minecart to catch a jump and ended Kurama's run at 4th place. In 3rd place, we have the guy who uses the character that actually climbs up summits, Big D. This win is huge for all my employed players out there, man. Big D proving you can get it done with a 9-5. He was the lowest seeded invited player, right behind Kurama, and had to climb through a tough bracket. After a rough pool D, losing to Tweek Sephiroth and Banham's Min Min, he had to fight his way through the gauntlet phase. His first opponent was Void, which was a swift 3-0 for Big D. Not only is it one of Sheik's worst matchups, Big D is 10 times better versus Sheik than 99% of the Sheik players are against Ices. His real challenge was against Glutonny, who was looking to make it into the final bracket through winner's side. The two character specialists duked it out in a crazy back and forth set, pulling out all their tricks against each other, but Big D eventually was able to take it over Europe's best in a game 5. In the final bracket, his first opponent was an opponent that no one wanted to get matched up against, Acola. Somehow, with the power of ice climbers and veteran fundamentals, Big D did the unthinkable and beat Japan's best player 3-1 in Steve vs Ice Climbers. Big D was looking unstoppable and proved it going into his next set. He dominated Kurama in a matchup that even Big D admits isn't great for Mario, but this win over California's best brought him into winners finals against North America's best player, Tweek. Big D played his heart out, going close with Tweek every game and even got a game over him in Ices vs Sephiroth, but Tweek's game plan remained solid, focusing on playing him right outside of Ice Climber's distance. Down 2-1, Big D had a sizable lead game 4, but Tweek started tweaking, man, and he went crazy, cutting Big D down from having a lead to eventually losing the game. Losers Finals saw him run it back against Acola, who was looking to add yet another name to his all-time great losers run. Big D didn't have enough in the tank this time. Acola made huge adaptations in the matchup, and the Fundies master himself couldn't make them back, exiting the tournament at 3rd place. Now for our grand final finishers. In 2nd place, we had Tweek, the United States best player, and in my opinion, the 2nd or 3rd best player in the world right now. We all know about the Tweek apology form, but it's true. With a mix of Diddy and Sephiroth and the occasional Wario, Tweek was looking to add yet another summit victory to his resume. He was in the stacked Pool D, where he was able to beat both Aaron and Big D, but fell to Banham's Min Min and Lucina. He beat Skyjay in a game 5 to move on through the gauntlet phase into the main bracket. He came into the main bracket looking to prove that he is that guy. He started off against ApolloKage and Snake vs Sephiroth, and Tweek has notably had some trouble against Snake in the past, but with a victory over the world's best, I think we can put those claims behind us. Tweek was up 2-0, but ApolloKage fought back and made it into a game 5 situation, where Tweek went final boss mode on the Snake, dominating him with the 2-stock. The next set was a run back versus Banham. Tweek was not happy at all about the set loss in the pools phase and made sure that he was prepared for this set. He lost game 1 with Sephiroth and switched to Diddy for the remainder of the set. Banham actually got up 2-1 over Tweek, but Tweek remained strong and got game 4. In game 5, Tweek once again was down a considerable amount. On Banham's last stock, Tweek once again went into final boss mode, eventually catching Banham's normal getup with a Z-drop banana in the forward smash. Winners Finals was another rematch from pools, Tweek vs Big D. This was another strong set from Tweek, but Big D looked like he had a much better understanding of Sephiroth this time around. Tweek dropped a game and had a few other games go down to a last hit situation, but he never deviated from his game plan. A lot of people were getting blown up by Big D trying to play aggressively versus him, but Tweek consistently kept Big D in his back air range and focused on splitting the climbers up. This masterful gameplay eventually led to him being on the winner's side at Grand Finals. In Grand Finals, he met off with Acola, who had just won 5 sets in a row in the loser's bracket. Tweek started off the set with a game 1 win, and the set was almost a 3-0 for Tweek. He had the lead all of game 2, but lost after a mistimed jump out of shield into Acola's forward smash. He won game 3, but that was the last game that looked close that set. Acola destroyed Tweek's game 4 and 5 for the reset. Tweek took game 1 of the second set after sending Acola to the Shadow Realm, but that would be his last win in the event, with Acola taking the next 3 games over Tweek. His run ended at 2nd, but it's one of Tweek's strongest runs to date and was a great first tournament with Luminosity. What is there to say about Acola? The kid's amazing. A lot of people say he's carried by Steve, or Steve should be banned, this and that and the other. And honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the character either, but the kid is undeniable. You could tell he has a genuine love for the game and was proud to be there at the event. And I'd go as far to say that this solidifies him as the best player in the world. He started off the event very strong, dominantly winning Pool C, dropping a game to avoiding Kurama, but you could tell that he seemed a bit shaky to start off the event. Since he went 3-0 in the pool phase, he built himself a bridge right through the gauntlet phase and went into the main bracket. His first opponent was Big D, who he had 3-0'd earlier this year at Genesis, but Big D came back prepared and defeated acola 3-1, sending the Steve to losers bracket very early on. Now, a lot of people at this point definitely counted the Steve out. His opponent in losers was MKLeo, the #1 player in the world that made acola look so bad the last time they played, 3-0ing him in both sets that they've ever played. This was not the same acola at this event, and he showed it. acola absolutely ran through MKLeo to the point where I was wondering if Leo was trying to throw. See, I told y'all that Cali stuff was good. The 3-0 against MKLeo brought acola into top 8, where he had to face off against Glutonny. The two had never played before, but with Steve being Wario's worst matchup and Gluto being extremely gassed, acola had another swift 3-0 win. His next matchup was against Banham, who acola was undefeated with prior to this event. Banham was able to take the first game with each of his characters, but acola was able to adapt to each of them after the first, and ended up taking the set 3-1 over Proto. The next set was a run back against Kurama. The two generally have very close games, and Kurama is very experienced against Steve, but acola is just different. With relentless aggression and throwing of iron resources, acola took games 1 and 2, but Kurama began to pick it up. Kurama took game 3 and was even up on acola game 4. acola, though, went from Steve to Herobrine in that last stock situation and evened it up, eventually catching a jump from Kurama with a minecart and took the game and set. Losers finals was a run back versus Big D, which, fun fact, was his first loss in bracket to a Canadian player. The set was completely different than the winner set. acola seemed to work a lot on the Ice Climbers counterplay, splitting them more efficiently and setting up walls to keep them from recovering horizontally. These adaptations plus akola's bountiful amounts of experience in these kinds of situations, he was able to turn the tables and get the 3-0 on Big D to make it into grand finals. The grand finals match against Tweek was a big moment for acola. Sephiroth is known as somewhat of a bad matchup for Steve. With Tweek's momentum from winner side and akola's from losers, we're about to see these two powerhouses clash at full speed. It was an amazing set, but acola just looked like he was on another level. Tweek was spacing everything so well, but right when he wouldn't, acola was quick to capitalize and get a huge conversion off of it. And yeah, well, that's just Steve, but no one's able to do it to the level of consistency that he can. You don't just pick this character and beat Tweek. After game 3 of the first set, acola was on some other shit, man. Tweek was able to get game 1 of the second set, but acola started winning every one after that. These games were all very close, always going down to last stock, but acola just found a way to stay alive time and time again, getting the finishing blow onto Tweek. This marks akola's 7th tournament win of the year, having a solid 77% win rate at events he's entered this year. And while he did win events like Umabara SP9 and Kagurabi 9, this might just be his biggest run so far, running through ult rank number 1, number 8, number 10, number 11, number 15, number 19, number 30, number 45, and tons of other strong players, while only dropping 1 set to Big D. I think this was easily one of the best Ultimate Summits we've had. While a lot of the top fan favorite players like MKLeo and Spargo underperformed, we got to see some legendary runs and overall great Smash. I'd love to take this moment to make a personal thank you to Beyond the Summit and their team. I've been watching Summit since 2015 with their first Melee event, and even if I haven't actively watched every one of them, they've always led to many special moments for both players and spectators. You've held some of the best Smash events ever, created tons of memories, and built a strong foundation for the scene. I wish I could have made it to at least one of these events as a VIP, but who knows? Maybe events like this will come around one day and replace Summit. Thank you for all the memories and legendary moments. And thank you to everybody for watching this video. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a like and comment on this video and follow me on all my socials if you're interested in more content like this. Longer form recaps are making a return, and I have tons of amazing content planned for 2023. I'd recommend checking out that video on top. I think you'll really like it, but YouTube's recommending the one on the bottom, so that one might be good as well. Until next time, guys.